All right. Thank you for joining today, everyone. I'm Brianna Sutherland, and I'm the intern at IEDC. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. I graduated from ICC in 2020, and now I'm pursuing a bachelor's degree in business administration from NDSU in Fargo. We are excited to introduce our guest speaker, Sarah Carling. Sarah joined CEDA in April 2019. Sarah has a diverse work history, summer camps, parks and recreation, warehouse management, HR, and technical writing, all of which allow her to understand and communicate with diverse industries, management levels, and city officials. Sarah graduated from MSU Mankato in 2007 with a degree in recreation, parks, and leisure services, with an emphasis in leisure planning and management. Her main passions are centered around community-based support through removing obstacles and creating an environment that is attractive to all who live, work, and visit the community. Sarah is thrilled to be able to support rural communities through her position with CEDA. Please remain muted throughout the presentation. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. At the end, Sarah will open it up for Q&As. And now I'd like to welcome Sarah to speak. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron to speak.
Well, it's okay, Brianna. I'm going to get the PowerPoint ready to go. And then from there, Ron can certainly take over. Ron, give me just 1 second and I will get our PowerPoint pulled up. All right. You should see that, right, Ron?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Ron is the president of CEDA, and he's just going to do a brief introduction as to what CEDA is, and then I will go into more detail about what my relationship and roles and responsibilities are with CEDA and within Itasca County specifically. So take it away, Ron.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you today and present information on our company. I'm very excited about our company, our past, and especially our future with great team members such as Sarah that we have. We currently have about 35 team members that are doing economic and community development across Minnesota. We're into Wisconsin, and we're into Northeast Iowa as well. So we have quite a variety of backgrounds that have brought people to us. CEDA's history, we were formed 35 years ago. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. I am the president and CEO. I've been with the company about 17 years now, and I answer to a 10-member board of directors. All of those board members are volunteers in the different sectors of the economy and the different regions that we're located in. We have historically done many different things. We try and take a philosophy of reasons to do things rather than finding reasons not to do things. Our history started with writing grants for the small business development block grants. The company sustained itself by utilizing the admin fees to do that. And in the early 90s, the admin fees kind of dried up a little bit. So the company needed to try and figure out ways to be able to sustain itself. And at that time, the company really felt that there is a lack of support for small rural communities. So we've taken that and developed it into what we call our community support program, where we assist communities 8,000 or under in population or so in rural counties. And it's an opportunity for us to give these communities and counties a swing at the plate. As many of you realize, a lot of economic development happens in larger areas. They typically have the dollars to provide staff to do these things. And our service is more of having professional people that could be on a full-time basis in a community such as what Sarah is, or part-time basis, maybe 1, 2, or 3 days a week. But on the screen right now, you'll see the different services that we offer. Some of those we do very extensively, and some of those we don't do quite as much. But we try and provide a variety of services to help our rural communities and counties sustain themselves and to be relevant. Currently, we're serving approximately 50 cities, counties, and organizations. We do this with our people that we have hired. We provide contracts to these communities to do these different services. And our contracts are a little bit different. We're a little different structured organization in that the contracts do have a 30-day out clause. So if we aren't doing the good work that we think we can do, then we are out the door, which is what should happen. It's hard to keep up with those slides going so fast at times, but that's okay. The opportunities that are out there, I think, are huge. Right now, with the times that we've all been through with COVID, with different items, with the economy and these types of things, I think CEDA and organizations that could be similar to ours or that do provide economic development are needed today more than ever. It is an opportunity for communities and counties to reinvest in themselves, to have a staff person that is accountable to make things happen. And our goal is to create jobs, increase the tax base, provide quality of life things, be it dog parks, be it bike trails, you name it, we try and get involved in it. So the top button on the slide here, we can provide a contract and scale it to whatever the needs are, which is very true. We do that in many different instances where we have all the way from contracts that have 2.5 full-time people down to specific contracts that are 1 day every other week. And we also do contracts that are reactionary, so to speak, in a per project basis. And we do those in a not to exceed fashion. The one item that is very different than most consultants that we are aware of is that we actually have a person in the office of the communities that we serve. So Sarah works with IEDC, and she actually physically goes into that office. So it isn't like it's a arm's length transaction for every project that we work on. It is having somebody in that office, in that community, in that county, doing the great work that they are. We do think that this is important just because of the communication aspect. Sarah has the ability to walk down the hall or up the steps to have a conversation with anybody in the IEDC office right now. And we just think that that provides much more opportunity for open dialogue, open discussion with our team. What brought CEDA to Itasca County? I think it's one, if not two, different aspects. And it could have been both of them that kind of worked together. The main emphasis of how we ended up in Itasca County is through Commissioner Ben DiNucci. Commissioner DiNucci was going through the Humphrey Institute program in the Twin Cities, and one of our team members was also going through it at the same time. They ended up, I don't know, sitting next to each other, having lunch, starting a discussion, and that's probably been 5, 6, 7 years ago by now. And one thing led to another, and Commissioner DiNucci started following CEDA a little bit and getting on our newsletter and different things, and discussions started to happen with that team member, and then discussions went up to our management team and to me, and just kept going and talked about different things that could happen with the county and how projects can be done and this kind of stuff. And the second contact, if you will, that we had in Itasca County is with Wade Fowles. I sat with him on a statewide board, and we had discussions after discussions of many different things, including CEDA. Wade did come down and visit our office, and we had discussions back and forth, and I know that he was very instrumental in development in Itasca County, and those two gentlemen were the ones that I believe brought CEDA to Itasca County. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. I apologize to go through those so quickly, but Ron's really good at just speaking in general about CEDA. So my PowerPoint, I was trying to keep up with him. So I guess We're working together as a team.
Yeah, it worked well.
With that being, do what, Ron?
That worked well. Thank you.
It did. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go into actually talking about myself. It's not usually my favorite thing to do, but I think it's important to talk about why I'm here and the roles in which I support within Itasca County. So I guess to start, a lot of the times what you've maybe have seen either in the Facebook posts or through news articles is many times you'll say that girl Sarah is kind of how I'm referred to within the county as a whole. So who am I? I grew up in Oak Grove, Minnesota, which is in northern Anoka County. I was fortunate enough to start coming to our family cabin, which has been in our family for 65 years, which is north of Nashwauk on Bear Lake. I was about 2 weeks old when I first went. And then I attended, as Bree had mentioned, Mankato State at the time, and that I had received my degree in Parks and Recreation. I will give you a fun fact. I went to school for 6.5 years, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I also am a semester away from having a teaching degree. So I did change my major my senior year. If there's any students out there listening, try and stay the course. It is expensive. Outside of that, I completed my internship with the Department of Defense through an organization called Morale, Welfare, and Recreation in Yokosuka, Japan. And I was working with the United States Navy as a civilian. After that, I moved to Carmel, Indiana in 2007 and helped open a $55 million rec facility and ran about 86 special events in any given year, as well as also doing their volunteer and sponsorship recruitments. After that, I kind of deviated from my work course a little bit and eventually made my way back to Minnesota in 2017, where I finally made the initial goal of when I was 13, saying I was going to move to northern Minnesota or Hawaii. I made the goal to move to northern Minnesota, and that brought me to Itasca County in 2019, where I've been serving as a partner of IEDC. So this is just a brief outline of my contracts, or let's just call it my yearly highlights. So in 2019, I started my contract with 7 communities, and that quickly became 10. I've completed 7 of these first impression reports for these communities. I conducted a commercial rent survey, and then I also identified all the for sale commercial properties within the county. In 2020, as we're all aware, the COVID crisis hit. So things kind of came to halt in a different, unique way, but then full steam ahead with a lot of additional community support. So that was, we added 6 additional communities to the list. And then I supported IEDC with multiple outreach opportunities for both businesses and for the community. We also then were putting on these, what we called the IEDC Economic Impact Resource Meetings. They started out as a daily call, became a bi-weekly, and then it was monthly as things started to find its new normal. And with that, I was providing information of where people could find resources, as well as how kids could study from remote learning and finding, access for broadband and internet and different resources that were available both for commercial families and as well as for communities as a whole. So that kind of crosses over to the business outreach and resources and grants. So I'd go out to businesses and allow them to, I'd help them, assist them with filling out forms, as well as providing information of different grants that were available to industries that were negatively impacted because of COVID. And then I also helped the communities get back to normal business by helping them identify ways to get back to that quote unquote new normal. And that could have been anything from helping them identify different technological resources that were out there to help with remote meetings and those kinds of things, identifying how to actually do meetings remotely when they're supposed to be in open law meeting laws. And then, it was also helping them to identify how to utilize the new state and federal fundings that they were receiving at that time. And then we also assisted with identifying or assisted with the identified community projects. So in 2019, there were multiple brainstorm sessions that were completed at that time, as well as in 2020. And so that work just continued to trickle through, and it still does to date. So we are looking at approximately 16 communities right now. I'll be doing some additional work on the side for some others. And then my continued focus is for business outreach and community project support and outreach as well. So there's a lot of projects going on in these communities that we have in Itasca County. Anything from, just marketing the community to large multi-million-dollar projects that we'll cover here in just a moment. But overall, as I mentioned, brainstorming has been huge in our community to help identify these projects that'll help bolster these communities and help to continue to have them thrive. So this is just a comprehensive list of the communities that I do work with, as well as do some more community outreach with. But I do want to say as a caveat, if the community isn't listed here, that doesn't mean that I'm not supporting the businesses and those kinds of things. But I do attend a lot of the city council meetings that are listed within these communities here, as well as help to try and support them with projects that they have going on. So this is just a list of some of the committees that I sit on, and there's a gamut. Avenue of the Pines, we have a great project that's going on over on the west side of the county. We've got the Bovee Park expansion, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. Deer River, we're trying to market what they have available, both residential and commercial. And then Itasca Strong was a committee I sat on. It has since disbanded. And then the Itasca Area and Attractions and Events, that's a great committee to be on because I help to just kind of be the voice of rural communities that may not always have the chance to get their events out on time. So I help to kind of promote what's going on within those communities to help drive additional traffic to their area. Essentia Community Health Needs Assessment is a new committee that I'll be starting here, I believe in July. And then we've got the Northern Minnesota Historical Mine Tour, Trails Task Force, the Itasca Parks and Recreation, the Itasca Summit, and then just community networking is another meeting where multiple communities can come together and we start talking about different projects. So those kind of keep me busy. Those are kind of other duties as assigned to help me kind of keep a pulse as to what's going on within our county, as well as providing feedback about what's going on in rural communities within our county. This kind of leads into those other duties as assigned, as I had mentioned, but it's the community outreach, as we've already discussed, community check-ins, making sure that the projects that have been identified are still moving forward. If there's any roadblocks, I'm there to help them remove those, find financial resources to help offset the cost of those projects, and bringing experts to the table. I mean, I am no expert when it comes to a sewer project, but I certainly can find resources and organizations that either have help with funding or have the expertise to help navigate some of those channels. And then again, business check-ins and support. What's great about being a partner within IEDC is that we have multiple different organizations underneath one rooftop, and we all have a really great set of skills. And so when I'm out in the area and I'm checking in with businesses, I'm often listening to them to see what's going on, and then I either provide them information about the resources we have within IEDC, whether that be Entrepreneur Fund, Apex, or SBDC resources that we have, and then getting them connected with the right person here. So if I leave a conversation and I've forgotten to mention something, I always come back and I also have check-ins with the staff and the partners here at IEDC to provide that information and make sure that we've come full circle. Then we do the networking with outside organizations. So again, that's really, working with larger organizations, whether that be DEED or IRRR or the Blandon Foundation. It could be a plethora of anything. Again, working with the internal staff here at IEDC, it just really helps to make our time more worthy within the communities and making sure that they understand that they have resources and they are supported. And then again, I've already mentioned it before, but supporting those communities with identified projects and their roadblocks. It's a really crucial part of what I play within these smaller rural communities is to listen to what's going on, try and help them stay the course. And when there is a roadblock, it's really trying to think outside the box of how we overcome those obstacles. Outside of that, again, it's the community advocacy as well as the promoter. So What I've found is that multiple communities may not always speak with each other, but it's, community A is doing X project. Well, I already know that community B and C have done that. So let's work together to try and overcome and speed up the process based on experiences that B and C have already seen within the same type of a project. So it really helps to kind of solidify and simplify processes, as well as it helps to, I help to kind of keep that communication moving forward with all of those communities as well. So this is just a list of some of the projects that are either in motion, completed, or have just kind of come out of brainstorm sessions. So electronic bulletin boards, many communities don't have websites, or they don't have a very good way of communicating. And this seems to be a go-to for some communities to help with providing emergency information or letting people know when their next city council meeting is going to be. The new websites and social media is huge, because when I first started, multiple rural communities either didn't have a website or it was extremely outdated, and it's underutilized. Then we have, other specific things to communities like baseball park upgrades, which was in Marble. We've got a disc golf course that's about to be completed in Nashwauk. Boat landing improvements in Harris Township. To La Prairie is looking at doing a fishing pier on the river. We've got a phase 2 walking trail in S Lake. And then, we've got our other larger projects that have kind of come out from the brainstorm sessions that we'll talk about as well. And I'm going to get into those right now. So one of which was just mentioned was that park expansion. And so when we were doing a brainstorm session in Beauvais, and I also recognized it in the first impression report, was that they had some upgrade needs within their community. And there was more recreational opportunities that were brought out from the brainstorm session. And what I thought was really cool was that there were a couple of kids within the community, after we had already completed the first impression report and the brainstorm session, a tire swing broke. And so a couple of the kids within the community got together, did a lemonade stand, and raised approximately $500 that they donated back to the city to help offset the cost. And that really spurred the park committee within Beauvais to create this larger recreational area. So what you see here, these 3 softball fields currently exist. This is actually where the Greenway High School softball team plays, and as well as the tennis courts. The tennis courts currently exist as well, though at the end of the phases, they will also be receiving a facelift. But everything else within this diagram or this layout does not currently exist today. We're working on trying to do this in multiple phases, as mentioned, and the first phase is approximately $400,000. And part of my responsibilities within this work is to identify ways to offset the cost so that it's not a large tax burden to these small rural communities that are already have small budgets and are worried about their tax capacities. So because of that, what I can tell you about this project is, to date, for phase 1, the city was on the hook for about $20,000 of a $400,000 process. So that's very insignificant when you look at the total cost, which is fantastic because it helps to reduce that that burden on the city itself, but allows the city to have a brand new amenity, which is going to draw more people to the community and see the value. And then lastly, one of the other projects that we're working on, and this came out of 5 brainstorm sessions across our 169 corridor, is a regional project that has happened, again, because of the work that was done here in Itasca County, is a Northern Minnesota Historical Mine Tour. And that project actually supports 10 communities within Itasca County, but overall it supports 31 communities between 4 counties. So what you see in this little blue dots here are the 31 communities that will be supported from this regional project. It starts in Ironton, Minnesota, and goes to Silver Bay, including Ely Tower in Sudan. Each location that has a mine, whether that be active, inactive, or reclaimed, will have an interactive sign at each mining location, which there will be over 40 locations identified on this route. Each of these will have historical information both about the community as well as about the mining industry itself within that community and the economic impact that it has placed in both our region as well as that community itself. The cool thing about this is each of these signs will also have a QR code that will link people back to the tour, which on this right-hand side of the screen, you can see the tour. This is an interactive map that you can utilize on your cell phone, mobile devices of any kind, your tablets, laptops. And what's great about it is it allows you to interact with this map and kind of see what you're about to see on the route, pick and choose what you would like to see, because each of these numbers, as you click on them, will provide you a narrative, a brief narrative of what you might encounter while you're at that location, as well as both video and images of the location. So we are going to capture all 4 seasons for all of these communities, as well as those mining locations. And we've asked each of the communities to help us identify up to 15 amenities to help show that these small communities that maybe people haven't always had a reason to visit, have a reason to visit, because there's really great things and unique features that each of these communities have to offer. And each community is so different from one another. And that's what I think is really going to stand out within this tour. So I hope that this has kind of given you a very broad scope of a lot of the work that is being done in Itasca County and is going to continue to be done. And I hope that I'm here for years to come because it's a very strong place in my heart. Most of my childhood has been spent fishing and ATVing up here, and I just love Itasca County. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, my contact information is right here. If you have any feedback, suggestions for communities or the county as a whole, I'd love to hear it. But outside of that, if you have any questions, like I said, now's the time to ask, or feel free to call or email me.
All right, well, if there's no questions, then I just want to say thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Ron, and thank you everyone for coming and participating and watching. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.